قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, واجبة بالنقل, seeing God is inevitable according to the religious documentation. وقد ورد الدليل السمعي بإيجاب رؤية المؤمنين لله تعالى في دار الآخرة. The documentary evidence, which is the heard evidence as opposed to intellectual evidence, came with the inevitability of the believers seeing God, exalted is He, in the afterlife. Ijab means making it necessary, making it wajib. The believers seeing God in the afterlife is made wajib by the religious documentation. I translated that as inevitable, meaning that it shall most indubitably happen. SharH, the explanation, is أن رؤية الله تعالى واجبة بالنقل, that seeing God, exalted is He, is inevitable according to the religious documentation. A la budda minha, meaning it must happen, it shall happen. على مقتضى النص الشرعي, according to what is dictated by the religious documentation, not according to someone's opinion. Yani, by the believers being exclusively the ones who see God, for example. Not everyone. When we say it's inevitable, that doesn't mean inevitable for everyone. لورود دليل سمعي بإيجاب رؤية المؤمنين لله تعالى في الدار الآخرة. Because the transmitted evidence came dictating, demanding, mandating that the believers see God, exalted is He, in the abode of the afterlife. Amma al-Kitab. So what are those religious documents? As for the book, with a capital B, فَقَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى, that is due to God's saying, exalted is He, وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ, faces on that day that are illuminated, seeing their Lord. The 22nd and 23rd verses of Surah Al-Qiyamah. وَأَمَّا السُّنَّةِ, yani that's not the only ayah, but we go step by step. Here's an ayah, now here's a hadith. As for the sunnah, meaning the hadith, فَقَوْلُهُ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ, it is that the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, said, إِنَّكُمْ سَتَرَوْنَ رَبَّكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, you shall indeed see your Lord on resurrection day. You is a plural. كَمَا تَرَوْنَ الْقَمَرَ لَيْلَةَ الْبَدْرِ, just as you see the moon on the night of the full moon. So if the person has knowledge and then he comes across this sentence, not just knowledge and comprehension, if he has knowledge and he has comprehension, and then he heard that the Prophet said, just like you see the moon on the night of the full moon, then by his knowledge and his comprehension, he's going to say, that means I'm going to see him for sure. Doesn't mean I'm going to see him like I see the moon. أي رؤية لا شك فيها, meaning a sighting, an undoubted sighting, an undoubted sighting. لا شك فيها يعتري المؤمنين في أن الذي رأوه هو الله. There is no uncertainty that the Muslim would have, that the believer would have, that the one he saw is indeed God. Subhanallah. Don't you know how some kuffar say, I know there's a God, but who he is, I don't know. That's not the case of the Muslims. Subhanallah. وَهَذَا الْحَدِيثُ مَشْهُورٌ. And this hadith is technically a famous hadith. I'm saying technically to mean not just literally, not just a literally famous popular hadith, but technically meaning according to the jargon of the scholars of hadith, a type of hadith that they call famous, mashhur. This hadith is technically a famous hadith. يحتج به في الاعتقاد. It is used as evidence in the conviction. It has the level to be used as evidence in conviction, in matters of the creed. لأن جمهور أهل السنة يشترطون للاحتجاج بالحديث في العقائد أن يكون متواترا أو مشهورا, because the majority of the people of the prophetic way make it a requirement to use a hadith as evidence in convictions, that it would be a successive mass narration, or that it would be technically famous. فلا تقوم الحجة عندهم في العقيدة بما دون المشهور. And according to them, and who are they? Shaykh says here, the majority. He didn't say it's a consensus. According to them, yani according to that majority, a hadith that's less than famous cannot stand as evidence for anything in the conviction. ولأهل الحديث دليل الإجماع أيضا. ولأهل الحق دليل الإجماع أيضا. And the people of the truth also have the evidence of the consensus. So whoever disagrees with this consensus, then his dissension is disregarded. He is not amongst those whose opinion matters. لأن الأمة كانوا مجمعين على وقوع الرؤية في الآخرة. Because the nation has been altogether in agreement about the occurrence of seeing, of the sighting with capital S in the afterlife. وأن الآيات الواردة في ذلك محمولة على ظواهرها. And the people of the truth said that the verses of the Quran that came in this topic are taken by their apparent meanings, like the one we gave already. إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. Those faces will be seeing their Lord. This is not reinterpreted to mean something other than seeing God. And there are other verses. ثُمَّ ظَهَرَتْ مَقَالَةُ الْمُخَالِفِينَ. Then after this consensus, the statement of those who dissented appeared. وَشَاعَتْ شُبَهُهُمْ. وَشَاعَتْ شُبَهُهُمْ. And their fallacies spread. وَتَأْوِيلَاتُهُمْ. And their reinterpretations spread. ثُمَّ إِنَّ أَقْوَى مَا عِنْدَ الْمُخَالِفِينَ. Furthermore, the strongest argument that the opposition have, وَهُمُ الْمُعْتَزِلَةُ. Those are the Mu'tazila, min al-aqliyat, meaning the strongest intellectual argument they have. That is, the closest thing they have to an intellectual argument is أن الرؤية مشروطة بكون المرئي في مكان وجهة ومقابلة من الرائي, is that they argued that seeing requires the seen thing to be in a place and a direction and to be across from the seer. وثبوت مسافة بينهما, and with the confirmation of a certain amount of distance between the seer and the seen, بحيث لا يكون في غاية القرب ولا في غاية البعد, a distance that is not the extent of closeness nor the extent of farness, the extent of closeness being stuck to your eye, and the extent of farness being too far to see. They said the seeing thing has to be within this distance. That's a condition. So, أن الرؤية مشروطة بكون المرئي في مكان وجهة ومقابلة من الرائي وثبوت here واتصال الشعاع من الباصرة أي العين بالمرئي, and they argued that it is a requirement that light rays connect the eye of the seer to the seen. And then they said, وَكُلُّ ذَلِكَ مُحَالٌ فِي حَقِّ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. All of that is impossible concerning God, exalted is He. So they said, their conclusion is, therefore, seeing God is an intellectual impossibility. They arrived at that, and this, although really it's a statement of atheism, it's not a clear statement of atheism. That is, it's not a case of the implication. It's not a case that we must hold this implication against the one who has it, the atheistic implication. We can't say you are indeed an atheist, you who denies that seeing God is possible. وجواب أهل الحق منع هذا الاشتراط. And the response of the people of the truth is to deny this requirement. كما قال المؤلف, just as the author himself said, فيرى لا في مكان, and so God shall be seen, not in a place. Notice also he did like Abu Hanifa. He didn't say لا يرى في مكان. He didn't say he is not seen in a place. He said yura, he is seen, لا في مكان, not in a place. ولا على جهة, nor in a direction. ومقابلة, nor counterposition. أو اتصال شعاع, nor by the connection of light rays. أو ثبوت مسافة بين الرائي وبين الله تعالى, nor by confirmation of a distance between the seer and God, exalted is He. فيقال للمخالفين, and so it would be said to the opposition, قياس الذات المقدس وصفاته على العالم فاسد. Comparing God's being, comparing the holy self and his attributes to the world is invalid. Because what they're saying is, we can't see a creation without these conditions. Therefore, we can't see Allah without these conditions. So it will be said to them, comparing God to the creations is invalid. وهذه الشروط التي تعلقتم بها شروط عادة. شروط عادة في حق المخلوق. And we say to them, these requirements that you have clung to, they are merely natural requirements concerning the creations. Yani, that's how we see things naturally, without any regard to something supernatural. Like, supernatural, like what? Like seeing someone all the way on the other side of the world, for example. So far, that's not normal. It's not natural. Or even when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw in hellfire, he said, I looked into hellfire. Hellfire is so far and so deep. Allah enabled him to see into there. And so that's, yani, that's supernatural. That's a miracle. Or like, as it was reported, Allah split the heavens for Abraham and enabled him to see all the way up to the Arsh. So those conditions that you, Mu'tazila, have clung to, they are merely natural conditions. Or if you want another word, normal conditions. ثم إن الرؤية عند أهل الحق بخلق الله تعالى. And furthermore, seeing according to the people of the truth is by God's creating. Exalted is He. ولا تجب عند اجتماع الشرائط. And seeing according to the people of the truth is not necessary even if all of the requirements that you have listed were present. It's possible that all requirements that you have required be present and you still wouldn't see something. Because Allah is the one who creates the vision. وَمِنْ أَدِلَّةِ أَهْلِ الْحَقِّ السَّمْعِيَّةِ. And one of the proofs, one of the documentary proofs of the people of the truth is قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى, what God said, exalted is He, لَا تُدْرِكُهُ الْأَبْصَارُ وَهُوَ يُدْرِكُ الْأَبْصَارِ. The 103rd verse of Surah Al-An'am. The visions do not encompass Him, and He encompasses the visions. This is a proof for Ahlul Sunnah. The Mu'tazila think it's a proof for them. They would say, look at the ayah. The visions do not encompass Him. So they think the visions do not encompass Him means the visions do not see Him, which is not the case. It means they don't engulf Him. Just like the mind, or the knowledge, rather. The knowledge does not encompass Him. Doesn't mean you don't know Him, though. And when you hear His speech on Resurrection Day, your hearing does not encompass His speech. Doesn't mean you don't hear His speech, though. لأنه إذا ضم إلى قوله تعالى. Because if this verse that means that the visions do not encompass Him, if it is coupled with this verse that we already recited, وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة. Faces on that day that are brilliant, seeing their Lord. يتلخص لأهل السنة معتقدهم. By putting these two verses together, the people of the prophetic way extract their conviction. وهو أنه لا تراه جميع الأبصار. Their conviction that not all visions will see Him. That's, though, what Shaykh is saying is according to explaining the first ayah in another way, different from how I explained it for you. Because the way I just explained it for you, the visions do not encompass Him. Encompassment here doesn't mean seeing. The way I explained for you, encompassment does not mean seeing. So the ayah is not denying that they will see him because it doesn't deny seeing. It denies encompassment. But there's another way to explain this ayah. لا تدركه الأبصار. The visions do not encompass him, or perhaps, maybe, do not realize him. So it means here, idrak is seeing. Then, even if we explain the idrak here as seeing, then when you couple this verse with the verse from Surah Al-Qiyamah, the meaning is that not all of the visions shall see him. بل تراه بعض الأبصار. Rather, some of the visions shall see him. So, لا تدركه الأبصار. The visions don't encompass him, or the visions don't realize him. This doesn't mean that no vision sees him. It can't mean that, because the other ayah confirms إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ, seeing their Lord. So even if لا تدركه الأبصار means the visions don't see him, that word's meaning, it would have not to mean all of the visions, because the other ayah confirms that some will see him. إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ, seeing their Lord. So then the people of the truth said, some will see God and some will not see God in the afterlife. وَبِهَذَا يُوَفَّقُ بَيْنَ الْآيَتَيْنِ. This way, the two verses are made to comply with each other. وَهَذَا الْبَعْضُ هُمُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And this segment of people who shall see God are the believers. لَا الْكُفَّارِ, not the blasphemers. لِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, because of the other saying of God, exalted is He. كَلَّا إِنَّهُمْ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَمَحْجُوبُونَ. They shall be from their Lord veiled. Veiled here means denied. They shall be denied from their Lord. And what's meant here is denied the honor of seeing Him. That's Surah Al-Mutaffifin, Ayah 15. هذا على تفسير الإدراك بالرؤية. And then the Shaykh said what I told you. This is according to explaining idrak in the verse of Surah Al-An'am as seeing. This word idrak, this is the source for this verb, tudrik. Idrak can mean to catch up to, or to surround, or to realize. وَأَمَّا عَلَى تَفْسِيرِ الْإِدْرَاكِ بِالْإِحَاطَةِ. But if you interpret the idrak as encompassment, not seeing, فَجَوَابُ أَهْلِ الْحَقِّ أَنَّ الرُّؤْيَةَ لَا تَسْتَلْزِمُ الْإِحَاطَةِ. Then the answer of the people of the truth is that seeing does not dictate encompassment. And what if a Mu'tazili were to say, I'm not explaining it to mean ihata. I'm explaining it to mean ru'yah, seeing, not encompassment. What he means is, I don't want any of your talk about encompassment. I'm saying the ayah means they don't see Allah. Then you can say to him, but it could mean encompassment. So if he says, but I don't explain it that way, then you stick to your guns here and you say, but it could mean that though. And the meaning of this insistence on your part is that rule we learned before. إذا ثبت الاحتمال, if another possible explanation is confirmed, سقط القطع في الاستدلال. then the definitiveness of the evidence is dropped. If you can possibly explain it in more than one way, then you can't be certain that one way is the way to explain it. وَرُؤْيَتُهُ تَعَالَى بِدُونِ إِحَاطَةٍ, and seeing God, exalted as He, is without encompassment. And that's in the Matan of At-Tahawi. He said, بِغَيْرِ إِحَاطَةٍ, without encompassment. فَيَكُونُ الْمَنْفِيُّ فِي هَذِهِ الْآيَةِ الْإِحَاطَةِ. And so therefore, according to this way of explaining the verse, what is negated is encompassment. لَيْسَ مُجَرَّدَ الرُّؤْيَةِ, not merely seeing. عَلَى مَا يَلِيقُ بِالْمَرْءِ, not merely seeing the seen thing as it is. الَّذِي هُوَ اللَّهِ, the seen thing being God in this case. لأنه منزه عن الجوانب والشكل والحجم والحدود, because he is exalted from sides and shape and volume and limits. وأما هو, but as for God himself, فمحيط بأبصار عباده, he is encompassing of the visions of his manslaves. عالم بها من جميع الوجوه, and he is knower about those visions in every way. فائدة, benefit. قال الإمام أبو حنيفة في الفقه الأكبر, Imam Abu Hanifa said in Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, the superior comprehension, the loftier comprehension. That's the meaning of his title. It's about Aqidah. In this book, he's calling Aqidah fiqh, a kind of fiqh, the superior one. He said in Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, وَيَرَاهُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَهُمْ فِي الْجَنَّةِ, the believers will see him while they are in the garden. بِأَعْيُنِ رُؤُوسِهِمْ, with the eyes of their heads. بِلَا تَشْبِيهٍ وَلَا كَيْفِيَّةٍ وَلَا كَمِيَّةٍ, without comparability and without modality and without dimensions. وَلَا يَكُونُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ خَلْقِهِ مَسَافَةٌ, and there will not be between him and his creation any distance. Intaha, end quote. وَقَالَ فِي كِتَابِهِ الْوَصِيَّةِ, and he said in his book Al-Wafiyyah, وَلِقَاءُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى لِأَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ بِلَا كَيْفٍ وَلَا تَشْبِيهٍ وَلَا جِهَةٍ حَقٌّ, the people of the garden seeing God, exalted is He, without a how and without comparison and without a direction, is true. Here, Abu Hanifa refers to this sighting as liqa. And the first thing that comes to mind from the word liqa is meeting or encountering. Like, didn't Allah say, وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا, if they encounter those who believed, they would say, we have believed. They were hypocrites who didn't believe. Liqa, meeting, encountering. Why would Abu Hanifa use this to mean seeing? Because God is not a body or a form or a shape, and He's not in a place. So what he's basically saying is meeting God is by seeing Him. Yani, if you would accept to translate liqa here as meeting, which we're not going to, but I'm just trying to help you understand the words. So liqa here means seeing God. And in some other places, liqa'ullah means death. And liqa'ullah could mean being judged in the afterlife. So three meanings for liqa'ullah. What would translate literally as meeting God. Either it means death, or it means being judged by God in the afterlife, or it means seeing God. And it never means, yani, if that word in English could be used, it never means being in a place with God. انتهى, end quote. فتبين بهذا بطلان ما في تفسير القرطبي. So by this, it has become clear that what is in Al-Qurtubi's interpretation of the Quran is invalid. بأن نفي الجهة عن الله تعالى لم يكن عند السلف. That negating a direction from God, exalted is He, is not something that the Salaf believed in. So that's the case of Wahhabis. They managed to find in some different books here and there, sprinkled here and there, peppered here and there, some statement here and some statement there. And even though they know that the one that this statement is attributed to doesn't believe like that, they will take it and hold fast to it. So prepare yourself, if you haven't already, for meeting the Wahhabi who brings to you the tafsir of Al-Qurtubi and shows you that Al-Qurtubi said that denying a direction from Allah wasn't present amongst the Salaf. وذلك بعد أن قرر قبل ذلك أن الحق نفيها عنه. And that statement of Al-Qurtubi, or that statement that's present in his book, let's not say he said it, but let's just say it's present in his book. That was after he confirmed, right before that, that what's true is that a negation, is that a direction is negated from God. لكن, however, العبرة بآخر قولي الرجل. The regard is given to the last statement that the man made. فقد صرح هو في كتابه التذكار. فقد صرح هو في كتابه التذكار باستصواب ما عليه أهل الحق. He was explicit in his book At-Tadhkar about deeming accurate what the people of the truth are upon, min nafyi al-jihah, which is denying that God has a direction. كما صرح فيه أيضا بأن الصحيح تكفير المجسم. Just like he also said in that book that what's correct is that an anthropomorphist is deemed as a kafir. وقد ألف التذكار بعد التفسير. He authored this book at Tadhkar after his interpretation book. كما ذكر ذلك فيه, as he mentioned in his own book. وليحذر أيضا مما في كتاب الغنية. And let there be warning also from what is in the book Al-Ghunyah, Al-Mansub li-Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani. That book which is attributed to Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani, radiyallahu anhu. May Allah accept from him. أن القول بجهة العلو في حق البارئ مذهب الرسل. What's in that book? That saying that up for God, for the Creator, up for the Creator is the way of the messengers. فلا يعول على هذا الكلام لا سيما أن فيه نصا آخر ينقض ذلك. So there's no reliance on this talk, especially that there's another documentation that contradicts it. So, that's one of the Wahhabi tricks. Those disingenuous Wahhabis, bringing you statements just to take you out of your religion, not because they even rely on that scholar they're quoting, like Al-Qurtubi and sometimes Abu Hanifa.